talk about some basic tools here. So again, in your workspace, this is Adobe Illustrator. You have your drawing tools on the left here, your toolbar on the top. Should on your right side see what looks like the properties panel that should be open. If this isn't open, you can click right. The layers tab might be open. Just click the properties to make sure you see this. There might be some other icons in the side here that have little arrows that can open up for more. Okay, if you don't see this, remember, go to Window at the top. Now, these are all the toolbars that you can show, right? So if you want to make sure you have at least what I have on my screen, make sure you go to Workspace and click Essentials. If you want to see other stuff, right? For example, if I want to add brushes, I click Brushes, and you'll be able to see I can move these windows. They can also snap into the side here. I don't need this for now, but that's how you access more toolbars. So a couple of things here. The most important icon is the selection button. So you'll see on the top left-hand side, we have the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and the direct selection tool. Okay, these both are our go-to tools when we're moving objects and resizing objects, and I'll show that in a second. So the left-hand side, the first tool we're going to look at is this circle tool. So if you right-click this, you might see the rectangle. We have ellipse, polygon, star, and line. So for this, let's just click rectangle. And what you can do is you can click and drag and just make a rectangle. Now, if you want to make any size you want, you can. You can on the right-hand side transform this. So you'll see where my cursor is blinking. I can resize this, right? So maybe I want this to be a 2-inch. Type in the width 2 and the height 2. Enter, and I made a 2-inch by 2-inch rectangle. I can do the same thing, right? And you'll see my cursor still has these crosshairs in it. So that means I'm still in this tool. So if I click again and release, it'll allow me to, instead of draw it first and resize it later, I can resize it now. So what I'll do is I'll type in width 2, height 2, hit OK. Now, you might want to move these around. So if I try to click again, you'll see it's going to draw more rectangles. So I don't want that. What I'll do is I'll go over to the selection tool, click that, and now what I can do is I can click and move these to different areas. Now, what I can also do, I can rotate these. If I hover around it, you'll see my cursor changes at different points. If I go to the corner, you'll see my cursor changes here. I can tilt this. If I hold shift, it'll snap it at certain degrees. And I can also stretch it out. If I go to the corners, I can shrink it down and stretch it out. I can grab certain points and shrink them down. So this is great if you want to manipulate shapes. And that works for other shapes as well. So this is a rectangle. If I want to draw, say, a circle, I'm going to go back to where the rectangle tool is, right click, and click ellipse. Or you can do the same thing as before. I can click and drag. Now, in dimension after. So I just drew a circle, and on the right-hand side, maybe I want this circle to be a 2-inch circle. Hit enter, and I have a 2-inch by 2-inch circle that I can, if I want to, click the selection tool and move it. Now, click, do the same thing. I click circle, I click, I type in 2. Oops, type in 2, enter, I hit the height 2. It's going to create the same circle. Hit OK. Now remember, if your cursor doesn't have the black or white selection tool, you're not going to be able to move this. So if I want to move this, you need to click the selection tool and click and move these shapes. So now you can do that with a bunch of different shapes. Again, I can use the same thing. I can use the selection tool to stretch this out, to change the size. If you want to stretch things out and keep them the same shape, you don't just want to stretch them out because it does distort them. You want to hold shift. So if I have this shape, but I like this shape, but I want to make it bigger, I click it, hold shift, and stretch it out. You can see it stays that same shape. It just gets larger. So another thing to remember, say because we use this pretty much only with the laser engraver. So for these shapes, I'm just going to delete these circles here and just use one of the rectangles as an example. This, for example, we have the black outline. So if we wanted to say reverse this and have the black be filled in, you can see on the left-hand side, you have the fill in stroke. So inside has the white with the slash through it. That means this is transparent. There's nothing in there. So say I want to reverse that. So we have something that's engraved, not the outline of the square, but it engraves the inside. So I click this. And what I'll do is there's a little cursor here, a little arrow key here that will say swap fill and stroke. I can reverse that. So now we have a black cube. So say I want a black cube engraved and I want a red outline. What I can do is double click this where the stroke, where it has the white box with the line through it, double click that. And that's where I can change my color to a pure red. So drag this all the way to the right and this all the way to the top. Okay. Make sure your piece, the shape that you want to change is selected first. And you can see my line here is red. The next great tool is the paintbrush tool. This, if you right click it, there's a few different things, the paintbrush, the pencil. So if I click paintbrush, you'll see what you can do is basically free paint. So say I want to just paint, again, we're just using with black and white or red for cutting. So say I just want to paint something. What this allows me to do is I can just draw, I can kind of free draw shape. So I'll just draw this random shape, make sure it's all connected. And it will smooth it out for me. I can color things in. Right, this is nice if you want to make quick logos. And what I can do here is I can also change the brushes here. So that's where if I go to Window, Brushes, it will give me options for different styles. So if you want to make this have a different look, you can see here, you can kind of play around with the different brushes. And what you can do afterward, these are shapes. So I can come back, click the selection tool, and click these individual shapes, and I can manipulate them and stretch them and move them. And that goes for this too. Now, what's great about this, this other tool called the direct selection tool, is if I click this, I can change the individual points. So you'll see each line I draw has individual points that make that up. So what I can do is come in here, and they're called anchors. So I can come in and click the individual anchor with the direct selection tool, and it will allow me to change that. So for whatever reason, if I want to stretch this out or move this or change the shape, it will allow me to do that. Maybe I want this smile to look a little bit goofier. I can change the different points in the path with the direct selection tool. Now that's a great tool to use with what's called the pen tool. This is the last tool I'll show in this tutorial. If you click the pen tool, this allows you to, we use this when we're tracing pieces. You can click and it allows you to make straight lines. So I can make simple rectangles. What's also great is if I click and hold, I can make curves and I can create really nice, more organic looking shapes. So for example, if I want to draw, we'll say, we'll do something random. So some more organic looking shape I drew with the pen tool. I can come back with the direct selection tool, and maybe I want to pull this up a little bit. I can change these handles and kind of pivot the path. And this is nice if you want to create something more organic. So again, if we were laser engraving these, right, the black would engrave these. But say, for example, we want to cut this design out here. I would select it, change the stroke from black to red, all the way in the top right, move this bar all the way to the top. You have a pure red, hit OK, and you can see my line segment changed here. Okay, so these are some of the most used tools. All right, so just to recap, we have the selection, direct selection. Selection moves individual pieces that we drew. Direct selection allows you to manipulate actual points and handles from the line segments. Shapes allow you to draw shapes, okay? And the paintbrush tool allows you to free draw. And this palette here, okay, we're only going to be using black, white, and black and grays and red. So remember, when you're adjusting your colors, make sure you're just using those.